in that instance, the United States just beat them. They did the same thing to us in that capacity. But by the way, like when we're operating in a war, right? We're better than them. They had a good military at one
No,
point.
you're not. No, you're not. See, when you
What are you, a
operate in
fucking
war,
Russian? What are you, a fucking Russian? Hello?
Hi, I think I've talked to you gentlemen before. Look, you can have pride in your country all you want, but don't downgrade another one.
Hang on.
What did this, are they obsessed with pride or
I don't
something?
remember.
Okay, sorry. You can go ahead and finish. I thought it was going to go weird. We were talking about Trump.
No, I just didn't like the fact about like all this Russian stuff that you're saying.
What about it
What?
exactly? Were you listening?
I was listening to. I just came here about a minute ago, and you were just saying a lot of negative things about Russia.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
As
Yeah.
we should.
Yeah, they
as you
suck at
should
war.
not.
They're so trash at war. The
They're
United
so
States
trash at
would
war,
have a
yet they were the main reason. They're so trash at war, yet they were the main reason why we won World War II. Okay.
were being the
Okay.
operative word. Were being the
Okay.
operative word, and even then they sucked. Even then they weren't good.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, buddy. Okay,
Yes,
buddy.
they lost in the Winter
Why are you
War to the
simping for
fucking
Russia?
Finnish. They lost to the Finnish. They're not good. They used the amount of
Right.
numbers that they had. They had a numerical advantage in World War II.
They
got
used
shit
the
kicked out
amount of
them.
numbers that they had because the United States and other Western forces didn't want to. So they were
Right, but
willing to
that's-
sacrifice men, women, and children to
Right,
win
US gave
that
them
war,
weapons.
Strength.
no matter
It's
what the
The US
cause.
Yeah, the
If
US
they
gave
ran
them
out of
weapons.
if they ran out of ammo, they resorted to using hose, shovels, whatever they could find, and they went in masses. They went to Berlin when no one else wanted to. So don't
I don't
disrespect
understand
the
what you're
whole.
talking about.
No, I don't give a f. They're committing a genocide in Ukraine. I'm gonna
What does that
denigrate
matter?
them.
Even in World War
And
II,
there's
they
a
sucked.
genocide.
Dude,
There's a
listen,
genocide
listen.
getting committed in
Okay,
Palestine that
cool.
you guys are
That's fine.
were praising, that Biden
No one's
supported
praising
and
that.
aided.
We have never.
That's
Don't say
Biden
shit.
supported and
Yo,
aided.
To say that we
yo.
can't criticize Russia
Stop
on
yapping.
all terms is just fucking laughable.
Stop yapping. I don't give a shit. They sucked in World War II. The only reason they won is because of Germany's manufacturing capacity wore out. That's it. You can't lock up a fifth of your population in a concentration camp and expect that you're going to have the same production numbers that you did 20 years ago. It's just not how they ran out of production.
The reality
Russia
that
sucks at
you're
war.
trying to paint is stupid, and the fact that you even think that you could possibly believe you know,
Stop with the stop with the grandstanding. Okay, address what I've said because you haven't. Russia sucks at war. Then it's a different Russia.
Right.
Even by the way, it's like I don't even know the Soviet Union fell. They sucked at war then. Okay, they fucking lost to Afghanistan. Losing now, they just suck. Okay, they lost to fucking Afghanistan in a full-fledged major conflict. And they suck. Hey guys, if you are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And if you want to support the channel, you guys can become a YouTube member on this channel, or preferably join the Patreon in the link tree in the bio. Also in the link tree is my TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, and the OK Hi YouTube, which I post news to on a regular basis. Enjoy the rest of the show.
and America lost to Vietnam in a full-fledged major conflict.
I
So does
know.
America's army suck? Vietnam.
That would be a
nowhere
no.
near the size of Russia, nowhere near
I
the
know,
size
but
of
you're
China, and they
conflating
lost.
two different things, right? You're conflating. So in that war, it was attrition. You know what attrition means?
So you
In
could
the
go
Viet-
back
in the
and,
Viet- Can you address? Can
She
you
doesn't
stop?
know.
You could go
Attrition.
back and you could
Hold
bring
on.
up a
Hold
war.
on. Hold on. Hold on.
But
Hold
if
on.
I do, then it's wrong.
Hold on. Attrition. Okay. We were in Vietnam for 22 years. They were in Afghanistan for like 5, 4, somewhere in there. They were planning to get out within 4 years. And they took in 30,000 KIA and 200,000 people injured. So in that instance, the United States just beat them. They did the same thing to us in that capacity. But by the way, like when we're operating in a war, right? We're better than them. They had a good military at one point.
No, you're not. No, you're not. See, when you
What are you, a
operate in
fucking
war,
Russian? What are you, a fucking Russian?
like, to,
What are you, a Russian?
yeah, I was born.
No,
I
she's
was
just a
The
tank.
Russians used to have a formidable force. That formidable force came around well after World War II. Okay? Like, they had numbers in World War II. That doesn't mean they're particularly good at tactics. They were later in the USSR, not during World War II. And I don't know where the fuck we're getting into this. As of now, today, they suck at war. They're
They
trash.
do not suck at war.
They absolutely do. If they didn't suck
They
at war, they wouldn't have
absolutely
lost
do not.
3,500. They wouldn't have lost 3,500 tanks. They wouldn't have over 10 times the
2 to
amount
1
of dead
casualty
as
rate.
Ukraine. No, it's not 2 to 1. It's somewhere between 6 and 10 times more deaths than
Again,
Ukraine.
you follow
twice
your
as much.
propaganda.
I
You
know
follow
you
the-
think this, right? I know you think this because you don't know anything. These aren't my numbers, by the way. These aren't like, these are categorized numbers. And this isn't just me saying this. This is Russia saying this. This is Russian blog posters. This is Yevgeny Prigozhin. Do you know who that is? No, you don't. Okay? This is Russians claiming that they're losing 5 to 1. Not me. Russians.
You do not know the history of both Ukraine and Russia.
Yes, I do. You don't.
We do not care.
Aaron, can we get some dubs and drumsticks in the chat for Aaron? Aaron, appreciate it. Time to kick this bot. Can we get some dubs for Aaron? With an A. Aaron, appreciate it. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Aaron.
Dubs and drumsticks. Tony Police here. Listen, thanks for the meatball sub, Aaron. You got to go. This is a terrible, awful take. I just want to clarify, like, Russia didn't always have a army. So, like, much of what happened in Afghanistan had to do with the fact that, like, we basically did to them in Afghanistan what they did to us in Vietnam. That's what we did. Pretty much the same plan. But what changed, and why I say that Russia kind of sucks at war, is at that point, one of the main things that Russia used during the war in Afghanistan was helicopters. Because you could not get, and there's like a couple airports, right? It's incredible terrain. If you don't believe me, go to Google Maps and go look over at the terrain in Afghanistan. It's insane terrain. It is unreal, unlike anything you've ever seen, unless you've been to the Himalayas. It's crazy. You have to use helicopters. And the thing that came out in the 80s for the United States was the Stinger, right? Manpad that shoots down helicopters. And they lost a ton of helicopters. And that's the way that the U.S. conducted and waged war there. This had to do with our American tech being vastly superior and being handed off to the Mujahideen did an incredible amount of damage to them. But they weren't always a terrible military, like not through the majority of it. Just early on, like after the Winter War, that's when they, World War II was mostly like attritional. We're just going to send in a ton of people, overwhelm the manufacturing capacity of Germany, and then we'll win. Right? It's not like they were particularly spectacular. No, they just sent a ton of people in. Their military later on was better, right? But you're seeing the remnants of that now. Like a lot of the equipment they're using now is Soviet era, and you're seeing how much it's failing. They just don't have the tech. They don't have the tech like we do.